your OS syllabus, what it contains. Yeah. So let me introduce myself. I am Venkat Ramna. I'm your OS faculty. So a very good morning to everyone. So operating systems. You all heard of the term operating system, right? Yes or no? Please respond in the chat box so that yes or no? Have you heard the term operating system? Yes. What is operating system? Give me some examples of operating systems. System software. Okay, very good. Windows. Interface between user computer. Very good. Windows, Mac OS, Linux. Yes, yes. Very good. So you have some idea about what is operating system, right? Okay. So what we are going to learn about operating systems in your syllabus, right? So before that, we will see what are the course objectives, right? So what you are going to learn in this subject, right? What it is going to explain you about the operating system. So to learn the subject, what you should know before, or what idea you should have before to learn the subject. It was given in prerequisites, right? There you should know about the computer programming, C program you learned, right? So, and then data structures, you have the idea about the data structures and computer organization, COA, you can call it. So, in the first semester, you already learned the subject, yes or no, right? Then, what it is going to teach you, all right? So, this operating system subject will provide an introduction to OS concepts, right? So, what are the OS concepts? You can also say OS concepts are nothing but OS services also you can call what the operating system is providing, right? And what operating system is performing, right? So if you see the first course objective, it tells you OS provide an introduction to OS concepts. So OS concepts are nothing but here the set of operating system concepts are mentioned, right? In that processes. So you all know what is a process. Do you know what's a process? Yes or no? Please respond. Oh, yes. What is a process? Please, what is a process? I can say a running program. Am I correct? Which executes the instructions which are in ready queue. Okay. Any other answers for process? A program under running state, I can also call it, right? So the operating system deals with processes. That means when executing the program, there are so many things to be considered. So we will discuss about those in detail in unit 2, right? How we have different process models. That means what are the steps in the then we'll see how process scheduling, That means how when more than one programs are ready to be executed, then how they will be given to the CPU, in which order, how they will be managed, right? For that, we have CPU scheduling algorithms also. So will unit 2. Then what is the thread? Next, it deals with the threads. What is a thread? What is a thread? I can say thread is a lightweight process. That means when we are executing the programs, the processes are divided into multiple threads. How means the communication between the threads is very fast when you compare with the communication between the processes. That means you can say process to process communication and thread to thread communication. So here the communication between threads, right? Multiple threads. That means each process is divided into multiple threads, right? Yeah, thread is a small unit of program. Yes, yes, process, you can also say, right? Scheduling. As I told you, operating system take care of scheduling the processes of something. This can be done at the same time, right? You all know today's computers are multi-program computers. So that means obviously at a time. So at the time, the processes has to be scheduled in a way that they has to be executed. All the processes has to be executed properly. That means we should not give more time to a single process. We should not give the time to a process at all. This is not should be sorry. That should not be like this. So managing this thing will be done by the operating system only. Then synchronization. Synchronization is also will be taken care by the critical session, which has to be a critical session is nothing but it holds the common resources where more than one process are competing to get the resources, right? So at the time, the synchronization has to be maintained. So operating system will take care of this synchronization also. Then deadlocks. Deadlocks. So releasing the resource also. I'll in detail about the will be taken care by the operating system only. What do you mean by memory management? We all know that we have primary memory, secondary memory in your device, right? And this primary memory holds the programs which are being executed, all right? And the secondary memory is permanent memory. You all know that, right? So managing these memories also will be taken care by. That means when a program is being executed, OS will make sure that that program is loaded into the main memory. Once the task is done, it will be taken out from the main memory, and the next some data units, right? A memory is divided into units, smaller data units, right? Where you can call them as pages, segments, based on the technique we are using, right? We have so many paging techniques. So everything will be discussed in your fourth unit in detail about the memory management. Then file and IO subsystems and the protection, it is discussed in your unit 5. So file management is nothing but you all know that everything will be stored in terms of files, right? In the memory. So their file operations are there, right? How to access the files and how the files are stored, what are the file access methods, right? And when we are storing the files in the hierarchy, what is the directory structure? The files, then free spaces are there when we are storing the files in the memory. How the free space is managed, you can call it as free space management. We have some set commands which are to be learned, right? So we will see in detail about this in the fifth unit. Designing. See, if some of you want to be a designer or a developer for the operating system, right? What are the issues to be considered when we are when you are designing or developing a operating system? Those things also we are going to discuss. And also it introduced the basic Unix commands. As I told you just now, we are about your course objectives. So if you see the syllabus, am I audible? Am I audible? Please respond. Can you able to hear me? Definitely. Unmute your mic and just talk more. Am I audible to you all?
Ma'am, you're audible, but your voice is breaking and it is also lagging. Hello?
Am I audible now? Yeah, okay, Ma. So actually, where I got disconnected, we are done with the course objectives, right? Please respond. I discussed about the three course objectives. Able to see three now? Yes. Please respond. Am I audible and can you able to see my screen? Okay, fine. So see the syllabus. So your first unit completely about the operating system introduction part. Then we will see different types of computers, right? Simple batch processes or simple batch systems, right? That means you have only one CPU and all the resources are available to that person who is using this system. Best example is then we have multi-programmed, that means multiple programs can be executed at the same time. And then time shared, here multiple right? Services, right? Then second unit, as I told you, it deals with the process and CPU scheduling, right? Uh, Here we'll see process concepts, then scheduling.
Excuse me, ma'am, your voice is breaking again. I can't hear you.
Unit. And also we'll see about the inter-process communication mechanisms. So inter-process communication on a single computer, inter-process communication on different computers, right? And using the message queues, shared memory for the IPC, we will see in the inter-process communication mechanism. It deals with the memory management and the virtual memory. So in the memory management, we will see logical versus physical address space. That is what right. That means when let's say your program is very big, the entire program cannot fit in the main memory. Let's consider there only a part of the program will be loaded into the main memory, which is required for starting the process, right? So once the program is being executed, in between it will call for some memory space, right? Memory address, and that data is not available in the main memory. Let's consider then it will get swapped from the secondary memory to the main memory, right? Then contiguous allocation, right? Allocating the memory in the contiguous locations, right? We will see paging, segmentation, and then segmentation with paging, demand paging. Then page, we have page replacement algorithms.
Ma'am, you're on mute.
Am I audible or not?
Ma'am, we can't hear you. We heard nothing since for the last 10 minutes or something. We can't
Oh
hear
my
you.
God. I'm continuously talking.
Yeah, we didn't understand anything, nor did we hear something.
Okay. Actually, I'm giving brief about
Your
the
voice
syllabus.
is breaking again, ma'am.
Now it is breaking again. Now?
Now it is clear.
Now it is okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So actually, I'm giving the briefing about the syllabus. You can't hear that. Unit
No,
1, I
ma'am, we
explained
can't. We
what
heard nothing.
you heard nothing. Okay. I will explain again. Not a problem. Y- 1 second. Sima, if
The
you are
last
facing
topic which we heard clearly could be thread, ma'am.
threads, okay, course objectives, threads concept or
Yeah, threads concept in Unit 1. We briefly discussed about all of that stuff. We heard nothing from half of Unit 1 and the whole Unit 2's course objectives. We were not able to hear anything.
yeah, no problem. I will repeat it again. Do one thing, ma. If you are facing any problem, please talk. Why? Because I may not see the screen, no.
Ma'am,
Because
I've
I
been
am seeing.
speaking, ma'am, but I don't think you were able to. I don't think you were able to hear me. I've been talking to you.
Oh, okay. Not a problem. So now you can see the screen, right? Wait.
Yes.
Can
Yes.
you able to see the syllabus now? Okay. So
Ma'am, what did you say? Your voice broke again.
You could see the syllabus right now.
Yeah, we're able to see it. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, ma. Not a problem. I'll repeat it. See, if you see the first unit, first unit completely deals with OS introduction, right? So there we'll see the different structures. So based on the structure, we can say we have these are the different types of computers. I can say, right? The first one is simple batch. Simple batch means you have only one CPU and at a time only one job it can able to do it. Then we have multi-programmed. There multiple programs can be executed at the same time, right? Then time shared. Here also the multiple programs will get executed, but in the timely manner. They share the CPU time, right? Time slots. Then we have personal computers. You all know that PCs are nothing but mainly it is for the ease of use. When you consider the personal computers, they should be user friendly. User can easily access to the computer resources, right? Then parallel means multiple processes are being executed parallelly at the same time. Then distributed systems are nothing but the systems are connected in a network. The systems are connected in a network where they share the common resources. Then real time systems. So real time systems, I can say real time systems are your smart home household devices like microwave oven, right? Then washing machine. There you have the like elevator, right? Elevator software operating, all this comes under the real time. We will see in detail about this. Then we'll discuss about the system components, right? We'll discuss about system components. What are the different system components we have? Then OS services. What are the different operating system services? Then system calls. If you see the second unit mainly deals with the process and CPU scheduling. So as I told you, OS is responsible for process execution, right? Then we'll see about the process concepts, scheduling, operations on processes. That means what operations we can perform upon the processes. Then cooperating the processes, that means when multiple processes are being executed, how they will cooperate with each other. Then thread, what is a thread we have seen. Then we have a thread life cycle, everything in detail we'll discuss about this. Then interprocess communication, scheduling, as I told you, OS will schedule the processes, right? Then what criteria it will consider. Then we have different scheduling algorithms. Then multiple processor scheduling, that means when we have multiple processors, more than one CPU is there in your device, how the scheduling can be done. Then system call interface for process management, like fork, exit, wait. These are for the Linux operating system. These are the commands which are used for the Linux operating system for the system call interface. You are getting me, no? You are right? You can able to listen? Am I audible? Yes. Okay. Okay. Fine. Thank you, ma. Now, see the third unit. Third unit mainly deals with the deadlocks and synchronization and inter-process communication, right? So deadlock, as I told you, deadlock is a situation, it's a permanent blocking of the resources. So what is the deadlock system model? That means by seeing this model, you can able to identify whether there is a deadlock or not. Then what are the deadlock characteristics? We have some set of characteristics. If any one of the characteristics is matching, we can say that there is a deadlock. Then methods for handling the deadlocks. Okay, I already told you we should make sure that there won't be any deadlock situation. So if deadlock occurs, right, what are the methods we have for handling the deadlocks? We will see here. Then deadlock prevention techniques. We all know that prevention is better than cure. So we should make sure that deadlock should not occur. So for that, we have some deadlock prevention techniques. We should follow them. Then deadlock avoidance. We try to avoid the deadlock situations. Okay, if deadlock occurred, then how to detect it, deadlock detection techniques, and then how to recover from the deadlock. We will see in the deadlock about all these things. Then process management and synchronization. As I told you, synchronization comes with the critical section problem. The critical section problem is nothing but critical section is nothing but it's a common resource area where multiple processes can get access to it. Then we should make sure that at a time only one process is using the resources, right? So we will see about the critical section problem here. Then synchronization hardware, and we should make sure that the processes are synchronized when we are using the critical section problem. Then otherwise there will be some problems. We will see in detail about them. Then we'll see about the semaphores and the monitors. Then classical problems of synchronization and what is the critical regions we will see. Then interprocess communication mechanisms. So in the interprocess communication mechanisms, we will see about the IPC between the processes on the single computer, IPC between the processes on different computers, then using of the pipes and FIFOs and message queues and shared memory in the IPC. We will discuss about that in the third unit. So if you see the fourth unit mainly deals with the memory management and the virtual memory. So logical versus physical address space. We all know that logical address and the physical address, main memory, secondary memory. Then we'll see about the swapping. Swapping is when a program is being executed and the instruction, the CPU is calling is not available in the main memory, then it will get swapped from the secondary memory. Then contiguous allocation, right? That means you are storing the instructions in the memory, right? We should make sure that they should be stored in the contiguous locations, right? Then we'll see paging and segmentation concepts. That means dividing the memory into the pages and dividing the memory into the segments, right? So first we'll see paging, and we have some problem, fragmentation problem with the paging. So we'll use the concept called segmentation. Then segmentation with paging, we will see that means we can use them combinedly, right? Then what is demand paging and what do you mean by page replacement? And for page replacement, we have different page replacement algorithms. So we will see about these things in the unit 4. So unit 5 mainly completely about the file system interfaces and protection also we will see. So file system will see different access methods and what is the directory structure we are maintaining and what is the file system structure, what are the allocation methods, how to manage the free space. Then these are the system calls for the Linux. Usage of open, create, read, write, close, IC, start, right? About these different system calls we will learn in the 5th unit, right? So this is all about the briefing about the syllabus. It is clear? Please respond. Okay, now we will see the syllabus, first unit, introduction part. See, if you see your first unit, we are going to learn about the definitions, that is what is operating system, right? And about the different types of computers, what are mainframe computers, what are desktop systems, multiprocessor systems, distributed systems, right? Clustered systems, real-time systems, handheld systems are nothing but your mobile phones, right? And operating system, I can say operating system acts as the intermediary between the user of a computer and the computer hardware, right? I can say operating system is an interface. I can simply say that operating system is an interface between the user and the hardware. Clear? Right? I can say operating system is the interface between the user and the hardware. So I can say the main purpose of the operating system is to provide an environment in which a user can execute the programs in a convenient and efficient manner. Right? Seema, it is better if you write the running notes. Why? Because I will be dictating you some important points as well, some definitions. And sometimes I may ask you to upload your running notes also. So better what you do is you keep a notes, running notes for operating system and write the important points. Operating system as it is the interface between the user and the hardware, and the main purpose of the operating system is to provide an environment in which user can execute the programs in a convenient and efficient manner. Now, see, here I can also say based on the type of the system and based on the purpose of the system, right? The goals of the operating systems differs. I'll take simple examples and I try to explain you. If it is a mainframe computer, the operating system for the mainframe computers are designed mainly to optimize the utilization of the hardware. Mainframe computers are nothing but, I can say, you have a server is having all the resources and the CPU, and terminals are connected to the mainframe, right? There, all the resources, here hardware is nothing but the resources. All the resources are shared among the devices, right? So there, our main intention is to utilize the resources properly. So that is the reason I can say mainframe operating systems are designed primarily to optimize the utilization of the hardware. If you take the personal computer, here the goal of the operating system differs. Why? Because if it is a PC, all the resources are dedicated to you only. Yes or no? You are not sharing your resources with anyone. So here the purpose is to make that user friendly. That means when we are using the laptop or when we are using the personal computer, right, you need not to have the entire knowledge about the coding and all. right? How the OS was designed, how it was written, right? Everything the user may not be knowing. Here, you will have an interface where you can access to them very easily, right? That means by clicking on the browser icon, simply you can get access to the internet, right? You can search anything, right? Or else if you are using Facebook or whatever, you can able to chat with your friends, or if you want to play a game, simply download the game, click on that, and you can play the games. That means mainly personal computer operating system is designed to support the complex games and the business applications and everything in between. If it is a mobile computer operating system, here the main goal is the operating system should provide an environment in which a user can easily interface with the computer to execute the program. That means by simply by using the touch, right? By simply pressing the buttons, you can able to get access to the applications, or you can get access to the programs, right? So this is clear for you. We have seen the definition of the operating system, and also we have seen how the operating system is designed, right? Based on the purpose, right? If it is the mainframe operating system, the criteria is different. If it is PC, the criteria is different. If it is the mobile operating system, then the goal is different. Yes or no? Right? Clear? Respond, please. Yeah. Okay, fine. See, if you see the PPT, the first point tells you operating system acts as an intermediate between a user of a computer and the computer hardware. So the main goal is to execute the user programs and make solving user problem easy, and it should make the computer system convenient to use, right? And use the computer hardware in an efficient manner. Now, if you see the system components, next subheading I can say components of the computer system. If you see the computer system, mainly it is having four components, right? It is having four components. If you take this diagram, it is the abstract view of the system components. It is telling you what are the different components of the computer system. So we'll have the computer hardware at the bottom. Hardware is nothing but the system resources, right? Computer hardware is nothing but your system resources. Then user one, user two are the end users who are using the computer. And then below that, below the users, you have system and application programs. Then how the system can interact with the system by using the different system and application programs, right? Means he can execute a program using the compiler or assembler. He can type something using the text editor, or he can able to get the data from the database, right? So these are the different set of system and application programs. So if you see the operating system resides between your hardware and the system programs, right? That means the user can able to get the access to the hardware and the application programs using the operating system only. I can say operating system controls the entire system, right? See, hardware. Hardware is nothing but what? It provides the basic computing resources. For example, it can be a CPU, it can be a memory, or it can be any IO devices, right? Then operating system. Here, see, operating system controls and coordinates the use of the hardware among the various application programs for the various users, right? Next, what are the application programs? Application programs defines the ways in which the system resources are used to solve the computing problems. Then users can be, here the users sometimes can be the actual users, the people, or sometimes the machine. Why? Because sometimes the machines also will give the instructions to the devices, right? It can be a robot, right? Or robo hand, whatever. It can be some other computer also, right? This is all about the computer system components, right? This is clear? System components. Tell me what are the different system components now? Please respond. Yeah, hardware, OS, no. Yes, hardware, OS, application programs, users. Sima, the CPU and all comes under hardware. Hardware means it contains CPU, IO devices, memory, everything comes under hardware. OS means OS controls all the programs, right? Application programs are where the user can get access to the services or using the application programs. Users are nothing but the end users. Now, I'll tell you, you have two perspectives of the operating system. That means I can see the operating system in two perspectives, in two different views. One is in the system view, the other one is in the user view, right? I can see the operating system in two different perspectives, right? The first one is system view and the other one is user view. So if I see the operating system as the system view, if I can see the operating system as the system view, I can say operating system is a resource allocator and operating system is a control program. You are getting me? If I see the operating system from the computer point of view, if I see the operating system from the computer point of view, I can say operating system can be viewed as a resource allocator and operating system can be viewed as a control program. What do you mean by resource allocator? Resource allocator means, as I told you, it allocates all the system resources to the user. I am running something. I want to take a print, right? Then I should request for the printer. Who is going to do that job? I open the file. I simply click on Control P. And then if I give the print option, I will get the print. But who are doing the job actually? The operating system is doing the job, right? You're playing a song, right? That comes through the speakers, right? Who is doing that job when you are playing a track? It should come out from the speakers, the operating system, right? So with this, I can say the operating system acts as the manager of the resources, such as here, not only the speakers, not only the printer, the resources can be CPU, memory space, file storage space, IO devices, and so on. And this resource allocation job is very, very important when many users access the same computer. If it is a mainframe computer, then multiple people access the same resources at the time, right? This resource allocation is very, very important. And I can also say operating system is a control program that manages the execution of the user programs to prevent errors and improper use of the computer. It is especially concerned with the operation and control of IO devices. Right? So what is this kernel? We will see later. Na? Kernel is a part of the operating system. It's a small program. It will be running all the time. So where this kernel comes, we will see in the later classes. Don't get confused with the term kernel. Kernel is also a type of operating system, right? It's a piece of program. The program running all the time. It will be running all the time. So it is clear for you all, operating system in the system point of view, right? What is operating system in system point of view? Please tell me. resource allocation and control of program. Okay, very good. So give me 2 minutes. I'll have some water and come. Yes, ma. I'm back. Okay. Now we will see operating system in the user's view. My voice is clear? Yes. So if you see the operating system in the view of the user, that is, the user's view of the computer varies according to the interface being used. You should make this statement. The user's view of the computer varies according to the interface being used. Right? So here interface is nothing but what? The type of the computer we are using. Right? So here we see the 5 different types of interfaces, that is 5 different types of computers. And based on the computer, what is the main goal? Means how the operating system can be seen. So let's start with the first one, personal computer. If you see the personal computer, we all know that most of the computers we use, right? Consisting of a monitor, keyboard, mouse, and the system unit. Right? That is, your PCs are designed for the single user. Yes or no? It's the single user system. So here, the main goal of the operating system is to maximize the work that the user is performing. It should maximize the work that the user is performing. That is, I can say these operating systems are designed mostly for ease of use without considering the resource utilization. Why? Because all the resources are assigned to the user only. So here we won't bother about the resources. Our main concern here is to get the maximum output of the system. That is, maximize the work that the user is performing. And it should be user friendly. So these things we should consider in case of the personal computer. If it is the mainframe computer, the main goal is to maximize the resource allocation. Right? So here to assure that all available CPU time, memory, IO that are used efficiently, that no individual user takes more time. So we should allocate the resources in such a way that all the users will get the resources equally. Right? And then third type of system, workstations. Here, what is the main difference between mainframe and workstations is mainframe all the resources will be at single place. They will be shared among all the users. Workstations means workstations will have their own resources, but here they will share the network time. They will share the network time and the server time. Here also will have a server system where the workstation will send the request to the servers. Servers will respond to the requests that are given by the workstations. So here the operating system is designed to compromise between the individual usability and the resource utilization. So here, anyway, the system will have their own resources, their own memory, their own CPU like that. But here, they will be sharing the common printer. They will be sharing some common repository where the files are stored. Right? You are getting me? The workstations, right? Even though they have their own resources, means their own CPU, their own monitor, CPU, they have everything, but here they will be sharing some set of common resources like printer, right? And some common repository where the files are stored in the server, right? See, for a company, let's consider we have a server system where all company related files will be stored. Why? Because the files will not be given to the individuals, right? Due to some security reasons. There, in the server, the common files will be stored and based on the request. If that request is proper, if it is the um, authorized person, then access will be given to that person, right? So at the time, what we should make sure that in the workstations, right, the operating system is designed to compromise between the individual usability and the resource utilization. Then the fourth type of computer, I can say mobile computer, right? So in the mobile computers, the user interface for the mobile computer is generally featured as a touch screen. We all know that, right? So where the user interact with the system by simply pressing and swiping the fingers across the screen rather than using a physical keyboard and the mouse. So here, what is the main goal of the operating system? It should provide a interface where user can able to get access to everything by simply pressing and swiping the fingers. This is only the criteria. Yes, ma. This for this user view, there is no slide, right? That is the reason I'm explaining you. Please try to make these points. In the user view, we have five five different types of interfaces. Ma. Personal computer, mainframe computer, workstations, mobile computers, and embedded computing. Embedded computing means I already told you, right? Like you have microwave oven and you have digital cameras, right? TVs, GPS, and you have some printers where with the you can simply it will have some numeric keypads and metal indicator lights on and off status, right? So this is all about the user view, right? The next topic is computer system organization. It is clear for you the two views, system view and the user view. Clear? Tell me what are the five different types of interfaces in the user view? Please respond, ma. What are the five different types of interfaces? Yes, personal computer, mainframe, mainframe computer, workstations, mobile computers, embedded computers, right? So PC means main goal is use, mainframe, proper utilization of the hardware, workstations, compromising between individual usability and the resource utilization. Mobile computers, it should provide a touch screen. Embedded computers, there it should provide you some numeric keypads and the uh, indicators. You can turn on, turn off the indicators to show the status, right? So this is all about the two different views of the operating system, right? So the next concept is operating system organization. So how the operating system is organized. So if you see the diagram, computer system organization has several parts, right? So I can say mainly three categories. I can say the first one is computer system operation, computer system operation. The second one I can say storage structure. The third one I can say IO structure, right? Your entire computer system organization has several parts, right? Mainly I can say three parts. What are those? Computer system operation. Second one, storage structure. Third one, IO structure, right? So if you see this diagram, the memory tells you about the storage structure. Different IO devices, they'll tell you about the IO structure and computer system operation, right? Okay. So if you see the computer, let's start with the computer system operation, right? So if you see a modern general purpose computer, it is consisting of one or more CPUs and a number of device controllers connected through a common bus that provides access to the shared memory. If you see the diagram, you can understand my point, what I'm telling you, right? A modern general purpose computer consisting of one or more CPU. Here I am showing you one CPU only, and a number of device controllers. That means this disk controller, USB controller, graphic adapter, all these are the device controllers connected through a common bus that provides access to the shared memory, right? Here, what do you mean by this device controller? Each device controller is in charge of a specific type of device, such as disk drive, audio device, or video display. You are getting me? As I told you, device controller. What do you mean by this device controller? Each device controller is in charge of a specific type of a device, such as disk drive. See, disk controller is the in charge of disk drives. That means if you want to get the access to the disk drive, right? The access will be controlled by the disk controller. If you want to get the access to any one of these devices, mouse, keyboard, or printer, they are connected using USB, then this USB controller will control the access to the devices, right? Then CPU. CPU is the central processing unit where the entire execution part will be done. And CPU and the device controllers can execute parallel, right? These two can execute parallel, right? That means it should not be like that. The disk controller should wait when the CPU is doing its job. CPU and the device controllers can run parallelly, but they will be competing for the memory. Why? Because to do any task, they should get the data from the instructions from the memory only. So here they will be competing for the memory cycles. I can say memory cycles, right? So to ensure orderly access to a shared memory, a memory controller will be there. You are getting me? To ensure orderly access to the shared memory. A memory controller synchronizes access to the memory. It is clear? Points I am telling you now are clear? Yes. Okay. Now, for a computer to start running, right? You want to start the computer, right? Then how it can be done for a computer to start running? Can you tell me? You are switching on the computer. First, what happens? Can anyone explain me what happens when you switch on the computer? Booting. Very good. Screen on. Before the screen on means what? OS is already loaded. So to load the operating system, there are some certain things to be done. Right. I'll tell you point by point now. Just listen carefully. For a computer to start running, it needs to run bootstrap program. That process we can call it as booting, right? For a computer to start running, it needs to run bootstrap program. That bootstrap program is stored within the ROM, read-only memory, right? It is the permanent memory. Whenever you switch on, right, the ROM will start and it runs the booting. It runs the bootstrap program. Then what happens? It initializes all aspects of the system from CPU register to device controller to memory contents. Right? When the bootstrap program is getting run, right? When it is getting run, when it is being executed, what it will do is, all right, it loads the files from CPU register to device controllers to memory contents. The bootstrap program must know how to load the operating system and how to start executing the system. So to accomplish this goal, the bootstrap program must locate the operating system kernel and load it into the thing. What it will do is, right, first what it will do is, it will locate where the OS kernel is there and it will load that into the memory. When it is loaded into the memory, right, from there, the CPU gets executed, then your entire operating system will be executed and your system will be on. You will get the screen where if you put the password, the welcome screen comes where you enter your user ID and the password, then you can able to use your system. Right? So this is all happens when you run the when you want to start the system, right? Right. Now come to the interrupts. What do you mean by hardware and software interrupts? Have you heard of the term interrupt? Have you heard the term interrupt? So interrupt is nothing but it is a signal to the CPU. That means it is telling CPU something that something important has to be done. Then what CPU will do is, see here IO controller is giving a signal to CPU. Then what CPU will do is, whatever the task the CPU is doing, it will simply stop that process and it will execute the job which was triggered by the interrupt. Then after completing that job, again it will come back to the process which it is stopped, right? Now, I'll tell you, the occurrence of an event is usually signaled by an interrupt from either the hardware or the software. Right? You are getting me? The occurrence of any event is usually signaled by an interrupt. See, CPU is executing a program now. As I told you, multiple programs are being executed, right? The first program done its job, but it want to give the output to the one of the output device, right? But CPU, what CPU is doing? CPU is already executing some other process. Then what the first process will do, because its job is already done, it want a little CPU time to give the program to the output device. Then what it will do, it will simply send an interrupt signal to the CPU. Then what CPU will do is for some time, it will stop its current job and completes the job which was triggered by the interrupt, right? So hardware may trigger an interrupt at any time by sending a signal to CPU by way of the system bus. How the interrupt will be sent is using the system bus. You all know what is system bus, yes or no? Data bus, everything, NCO, you learn, right? The software may trigger any interrupt by executing a special operation called a system call or monitor call. Here, you should understand how the hardware interrupt can be done, how the software interrupt can be done. Right? If it is a hardware interrupt, that means any hardware device, input output device, it want to send an interrupt. Simply, it will send a interrupt signal to the CPU using the system bus, right? If any software want to send an interrupt, it will be done using the system call or monitor call. So when the CPU is interrupted, what happens? As I already told you, when the CPU is interrupted, it stops what it is doing and immediately transfer the execution to a fixed location. Right? It will transfer the execution to a fixed location. Location is nothing but what? It is the address location which was given by the interrupt signal, right? So the interrupt service routine executes. After completion of the interrupt, the CPU resumes the interrupted computation. So as I told you, what is the job? It stopped because of the interrupt, right? It will resume that job once the job which was given by the interrupt is completed, right? So interrupt vector is an array which stores the address of the interrupt service routines for the various devices. You should make this point. Interrupt vector is an array which stores the address of the interrupt service routine for the various devices. So what are the topics I just discussed just now? Are there? You can make a note of this if you want, right? So if you see the computer system organization, it is having three parts. I told you, like computer system operation, storage structure, and IO structure. But we are just now we discussed about this OS operations. So in this OS operations, I told you you have CPU and the device controllers. Each device controller is taking care of the devices. If it is a disk controller, which will controls the disk. If it is USB controller, controls the USB connected devices. It can be input device or output device, right? But they will be sharing the common memory using the memory cycles. Then we discussed about the interrupts, right? So what is an interrupt? Interrupt is a signal. Here we have two different types of interrupts. One is hardware interrupt and the software interrupt. Hardware interrupt can be sent by the system bus as a signal. If it is a software interrupt, it can be done by using the system call or monitor call, right? So how these all the interrupts can be stored in an array, right? Where they will store the address of the address of the interrupt service routine, right? Means we have different devices, IO devices. For each device, it will have a separate memory location from where it should get executed, like, right? So these memory locations will be stored in the interrupt vector. It is an array, right? This is clear for you all? Yes or no? About the computer system operations. If you're clear with this, then we will start storage structures. You want me to repeat, or it is clear for you all about the computer system operations? Very simple. In the computer system operations, we discussed about the how the devices interrupt vector. Very simple, ma. So interrupt vector is nothing but it is an array, right? So what it will store? It will store the address of the interrupt service routines for various devices. So you know that your system will have different devices. So for each device, you have a separate interrupt service routine, right? So where this actual routine is there, that address will be stored in the array, right? So whenever any interrupt was generated, based on the interrupt type, right, it will load the memory location of the interrupt service routine so that service will get executed. Clear? 7E. Okay. So in this computer system operations, we discussed about bootstrap program, how the program is, means how your system starts, right? How the operating system is loaded into the memory, and then what are the hardware interrupt and what are the software interrupts, right? Hardware interrupts are generated by the signals through the system bus. Softwares are done by the system calls, right? We can call them as the system calls are the separate operations. Now coming to this storage structures. So if you see the storage structure, the CPU can load instructions only from the memory. You all know that, right? CPU can load the instructions only from the memory. So any program to run must be stored in the memory. Yes or no? To do any job, to execute anything, first it has to be loaded in the memory. Then only the CPU can able to read the instructions. The CPU can read the instructions only from the memory. Clear? Right. So if you see this storage, we have two different types of storages now. Can anyone tell me what are the two different types of storages? Volatile memory, non-volatile memory. Permanent memory, temporary memory. Right? You're getting me? So volatile means it is temporary storage, ma. Whenever the power gets off, the entire data will be erased. Non-volatile, permanent storage. So I'll give you some examples for temporary memory and the primary memory. So if you say registers, cache memory and main memory comes under volatile storage. Registers, cache memory, main memory, the top three comes under volatile. And non-volatile storage means solid state disk, hard disk, optical disk, magnetic tape. So the below four comes under non-volatile. Let's start with the volatile storage. So volatile storage devices are fast and expensive, but they loses its contents when power is turned off. Volatile storage devices are very fast They are very expensive, but they loses its contents when power is turned off. Let's start with the registers. So if you see the registers, each byte of the memory has its own address. Here the interaction is achieved through a sequence of load and store instructions to a specific memory address. It is better if you take the points. Are you taking the notes? Are you taking the notes? Yes, okay. Take down the points for the register now. Each byte of the memory has its own address. Interactions is achieved through a sequence of load and store instructions. So here if you use the load instruction, a byte from the main memory, if you are using load instruction, it moves a byte from main memory to the internal register within the CPU. Store means it moves the content of a register to the memory. Store is used to move the contents from register to the main memory. Next, about the cache memory. I can say cache memory is very fast storage system. Faster also I can use. It is faster storage system used to store the information temporarily, and the size of the cache is very small, and it is located in between the CPU and the main memory. Cache memory is very faster, but it is used to store the information temporarily, and the size of cache is very small. And it is located in between the CPU and the main memory. So, cache memory is mainly used to store very frequently executed instructions, I can say. Right? Sometimes when you are opening any file or anything, it will get open very fast. The reason is which it is taken from cache. If it is not there in the cache memory, what it will do is it will take it from the main memory. From the main memory, it will be loaded into the cache and cache to the CPU. Right? Now, coming to the main memory. You can also call it as random access memory. Main memory is also called as random access memory. I can say it is a rewritable memory. Computers run most of their programs from main memory only. And main memory is implemented in dynamic RAM technology, DRAM. And main memory is too small to store all needed programs and the data permanently. So this is about the main memory. Main memory is also called as random access memory. It is a rewritable memory, and computer run most of their programs from the main memory only. That means CPU will take the programs from the main memory. Sima, whenever you are executing any program, CPU first checks in the cache memory. If it is there in the cache, it will get executed. If not, it searches in the main memory. If it is not there in the main memory, then it will be taken from the secondary memory. From the secondary memory loaded into the main memory. From the main memory, it will be loaded in the cache or else it will be executed. And main memory is implemented in the dynamic RAM technology. So I can say main memory is too small to store all needed programs. So that is the reason we are using the concept called swapping, right? We are using the concept called swapping for swapping the programs from the secondary memory to the main memory. Now coming to the non-volatile storage. So these are extensions of main memory, I can say. These devices stores large quantities of data permanently. It is clear for you all about the volatile storage. We discussed about registers, cache memory, and main memory, right? So registers, they will store only data in terms of the bytes. So at a time, only 1 byte of data will be loaded, right? So we'll use two commands and the load and store to storing the data to the registers and writing it back to the main memory, right? And cache memory, which is very faster, but very costly also. It is clear for you all? Just respond, ma. Okay, fine. Non-volatile is nothing but they will store the data permanently. Right. So let's start with the solid state disk. Solid state disk stores the data in a large dynamic RAM. Right? Normally, whenever we are storing the data, it stores the data in the dynamic RAM array. But the solid state disk, it is also containing a hidden magnetic hard disk and a battery for the backup. So these were used in older days, the solid state disk, right? It will store the data in the large dynamic RAM, but it also contains a hidden magnetic hard disk and a battery, right? So when it will be when these backups will come resume is if the external power is interrupted, the solid state disk controller copies the data from the RAM to the magnetic disk. And again, when the external power is restored, the controller copies the data back to the RAM. These are faster than the magnetic disk. Clear? Make the points here. Solid state disk stores the data in a dynamic RAM, but it also controls the hidden magnetic hard disk and the battery for the backup. So when if the external power is interrupted, when you are using the solid state disk, right? If the power got tape, and again when the power resumes from the magnetic hard disk to the solid state disk, again the data will be copied back. Now coming to the magnetic disk. So magnetic disk provides the storage for both the programs and the data, and everything means all the programs are stored on the magnetic disk until they are loaded into the memory. So you are means you can store all the programs and the files, all the system programs and the application programs in the magnetic disk one, right? And you can copy them from the magnetic disk to the memory. That means to get it executed, right? To make your programs executed, they has to be loaded into the main memory, right? So means from you can only carry the data in the magnetic disk, right? You can simply carry the data in the magnetic disk, but you cannot run the programs in the magnetic disk. So to run the programs, you are supposed to load them into the memory. Optical disk. Optical disk is very simple. Means you all know that your CDs, DVDs, everything comes under this optical disk. Only for the external storage purpose, you will be using this. And magnetic tape. So magnetic tape also, it is used along the strip of the narrow plastic film. The tapes of the thin magnetizable coating. It is used to record video and audio data, right? You, if you can see we are recording the video, right? They will be using the magnetic tape, right? So in that magnetic tape, everything will be captured. And then flash memory examples, your pen drive, everything comes under this flash memory smart. These are popular in cameras. Cameras, you'll be having the memory chips, right? You have 8 GB, 16 GB chips are there, right? We can use them in the PDAs, you can use them in the cameras, right? And and you can also use this in the general purpose computers, right? If you have the card reader, you can use the flash memory card, right? But these flash memories are slower than the dynamic RAM, but these requirements, uh, no power is required to retain the contents, right? When once you store the data in the flash memories, right, you can directly get the data from the cards, right? So this is all about your volatile and non-volatile memory. It is clear for you all. So I will share the notes for this. Don't get convinced. Don't worry. You can go through it at your home again. Again, if you have any doubts, you can ask me in the next class. Not a problem, right? So it is clear for you all till now. Yes or no? And please tell me, my voice is understandable. If my teaching is okay with you, are you able to follow me? Or else do you want me to make any changes in my teaching? Am I going fast? Or everything okay? Please give your feedback because it is my first class. Due to the network issues, we got some disturbances, but I'll make sure that from next class it won't happen like this. You understand what the concept we discussed today? Clear? You are understanding the concepts? Yes? Sima, only 2-3 people are responding. Please, there are 50 students are there. Please give your feedback. Thank you, Ma. Thank you so much. See, if you have any doubts at any time, you can ask me. Like, I'm there in your class group, right? Yes, Ma. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm ending the class. Once again, thank you very much. We'll meet in the next class, right? So in the next class, we will see about the IO structures and then computer system architecture, right? So we try to cover those topics in the next class. Thank you.